Okay, so we ended 2021 season with our dragster, and I want to make video about resume of all this operation. What happened here? We sold Supra in parts, so we got some funds to build a new project, and since we race on exclusively on airfields, we decided that we want a long car. I mean, dragster with the rear engine, and we managed somehow to get a Hemi. Did work a little on fuel Hemi before, but I never knew it's that expensive in parts. If someone would take me back to that decision-making time, and I would be back to Chevys, perhaps only because it's so little. I mean, this engine is a Frankenstein. Is a Dart, old Dart fuel heads, 170-ish chamber, twin spark plug, and they call 10-bolt because the manifold is 10-bolt. And they are put over a little bit hurt Keith Black block with a 13:1 compression ratio and 4.5-inch stroke. So it's not really methanol setup as far as I understand. Perhaps with the methanol we would want less stroke and more bore, but the bore here is 4.31, so it's like alcohol sleeves, I think, you know. Yeah, and the cam is mad as well. Cam is 6 to 10,000 RPM range cam. Rocker stands, nobody knows where they're from. I was seeking, searching for, googling everything and taking measures, sending all possible visits, and nobody could answer me what they are. They are titanium valves and slide rockers, but the slide rockers are, I mean, they're playing a lot on the valve tip, and this is not really set up, one of them proper setups, you know. It's just being put off anything you got in the garage, and I mean, even lifter positions I don't like. They seem to be a little bit touching the heads on in a particular position, etc., etc. What happened, I found that we have very small main clearances, and this is why I decided to get a cheap dry sump pump and the dry sump tank and use two pumps. So we're using two pumps now. We use a 4-stage 6-cylinder American-made dry sump pump to draw fuel from the sump, and then from the tank we have original Blackheath pump pressuring up the engine. Yeah, and we decided to go way 50 oil because we have small clearances, and I've talked to many people, should it work or not. And the clearances, the problem with the clearances is someone gave this beautiful Bryant crank to grind in a civil shop, and it's 1/10 down, repaired crank. We don't have money to buy new cranks, and it's almost not possible to take another thou or two thou off the crank. So we run now, I can't remember really, you know, but very tight crank gap. I mean clearance, bearing clearances. The transmission we put, it was the same Powerglide from Supra, which served us perhaps 5 or 6 seasons, and the only reason I believe it does work because we don't have traction here. And during years with the Supra, I did nothing to this transmission, even though it's JW. I don't know. I have very loose disc clearances and stockish oil pump and some very old Triple S welded converter on it. It's tight converter. I mean, it really holds the power of blown V8 at 4000 stall. And when you shift, RPM goes 2000 RPM down. So it's a strong unit, tight unit. Yeah. Otherwise, we bought this chassis. Chassis is from UK. Seemed to be built like 30 years ago. It's nice, smallly built. I had the tag of, can't remember now, 6-ish maybe. I grinded it, I mean I shaved it off because I stripped the chassis, I stripped all the paint because I wanted to see, we have very bumpy tracks and I want to see if seams are not cracking, you know, because if you paint the chassis then you see no cracks because paint covers it, you know, and we decided to shake the car properly down and clean it while we, you know, we keep it till the end of the season. But everything we planned seemed to happen, you know. And first race we went to really slippery airfield, and oh yeah, and we bought these used tires because you see on Supra we ran 3.98 differential, and this one when we bought a roller was 4.11. So we bought from Sweden used tallest tire we could get because we didn't know if we have enough ratio to end the track before the shift light, before the limiter. Alright, and because it's a long stroke engine, I didn't want to rev it as promoters do, like 9,000. No, you know, I would rather keep it like a torque monster instead. And yeah, it did work. It did work. And first race we won the race in Estonia, and we made track record. Yeah, but the place is like a Doslama field, so we know we a little bit outside the category, you know. Yeah, and we use tricky system to control, not on fuel. Fuel is like very conventional, nothing special. We don't even have a loop, the pump loop. We don't have leak down, lean out system, nothing. We just plain single main jet system, which, you know, with this pump, like 18-gallon pump, we run like 120 pill. I know it's unusual, but it did work. Alright. Thanks to Egbert at Post and Ross, he gave us initial jetting plan, so it really did work. I only changed 2 jets, but now we have cylinder temperatures almost identical. The ignition we made ourselves. Funny, we use MSD8 and the computer ECU called Mtron. People say it's a Porsche unit, but it's still, I mean, cheaper than all this brand stuff, like Motic, Fuel Tech, whatever. And we have a 32 teeth crank trigger with a regular from junkyard Volkswagen sensor, and then the signal goes into ECU, and the ECU tricks the MSD, and you can virtually advance or take out timing on every single cylinder. Right, and The only problem was this system used CAN bus cables, and in the first races we lost the signal of CAN bus cables. Then we put isolation over it because we thought it could be ignition noise, like electromagnetic noise. And yes, it was true. When we took cable further from spark plugs, we got a signal back, and it was the last race in a Haapsalu. And the Haapsalu guys, they really prepped track well. It was very cold, it was 12 Celsius, but we made 10360 foot with this car. And when I saw the EGTs, I found that we made a progressive ignition curve, and we had, I think, the maximum 29-degree advance at the end of the track, because this blower is old and the clearance is huge, and seems that it's not that effective at the end of the track. Car is not revving up, and there was no way to lean it down, so we made inclined the curve of ignition timing. Yeah, and we ended up with 7.3 and 284 kilometers per hour at the end. A half track was amazing. Can't remember now, but it was 4 something. And on airfield, it's not prep track. It's not. Yeah. And it was very short distance, glued and rubbered. I think 100 meters, it's like that. So the driver had to shift, looking at the track where the glue ends. Just before the glue, he had to shift. He couldn't shift later because it was too dangerous, because our converter hits down and tires spin. Right, and we cooked the gearbox this time. I mean, oil was like we used this synthetic PAO industrial oil, which is clear like water, and after the 3 runs it was like a stout, the dark beer, the oil, and stinky like 10 socks. So it was heating up so bad that even all this radiator fan housing melted, and all the anodized AN fittings, which were blue, became white. So converter, when I will dismantle transmission, will be blue definitely. Yeah, and we want to upgrade the transmission. I will still want to stay with Powerglide. We have Lenco, but I don't want to learn the dry clutch. I don't think it's not for our tracks. It could be too violent, and then trying to adjust it for bad tracks, it could take a lot of slippage, and then if they burn all this grinding them off stuff now, not for us. We want to stay with Glide as far as we can. So I'm looking now for help around who could supply me parts and maybe advise me on building 3000 horsepower JW Powerglide. Right, but the engine itself is ridiculous. I mean, comparing to Chevy, it is very thirsty. It consumes 30 liters of methanol on run, when Supra was up to 20, maybe even less, and it makes power. On the last run, when we ran 7.3, the run before, we had the 26 degrees advance, like safe, right? And we had close to 600 Celsius exhaust temperatures, and when I increased in ignition, temperatures went down. So that means we have a lot of chances to lean the engine down and make even more power, But to my experience, we only run like 60, even less maybe, percent of engine capability. So perhaps on a good track we could be in fives. I believe so. Especially if you put all these little tricks with the lean out and the ignition timing, and you get more familiar with the, like bringing weather station. We still don't use any Alky Pro, nothing, we only look at spark plugs and exhaust temperatures. Yeah, but it all went well. We didn't kill the engine, we didn't, as transmission, we were expecting it to let it go, and we didn't crash. Alright, so we will be able to race next season. Yeah, we couldn't tag the car because for some reason in SFI rules they're not allowed to weld moly with a dog hole, but Scrutiny said this is a matter of time, so perhaps we will have the car tagged soon. And yeah, we're not going to come race in a European Cup or big cup. We will still be racing here around, in the airfields in our country or neighboring countries. But we're doing well. The car runs straight, really, very straight. There was one issue when she spotted dipstick from the transmission. That locking mechanism was worn out, and some oil got on the tires, so he was, he lifted it in the first run because of that. But we found this dipstick luckily and continued racing. Wow, unbelievable. We made 7 to 8 runs this season, and we went from 10-2 to 7-3s, and we won 2 races from 3. On the last race, in eliminations, we got oil down and we were shot. But maybe this for good, because with that state of the transmission, you could see, it's like hot pan. It was badly hot. I think it was over 200, maybe 250 degrees of oil temperature there. It was short time between rounds. They came to us quickly, you have 10 minutes, you have to, and we were changing oils and packing chutes and tightening up driver, and it takes a little bit more and for things to cool down, Yeah. So yeah, we have potential with this car, and on our tracks, if you want to race, if you run to quick, safe fish, I need a long wheelbase. It really does help. Yeah, and I made very nice paintwork. You see, I wrote that by hand. Quota, slaughter, made 2 grammatical mistakes. And now we're gonna take all the tin work down and paint it properly. So yeah. This is resuming all this. We are lucky to have this season, really, because this pandemic, I say, is coming back, and you never know with that stuff. I hope, next year will ease out because of this, maybe vaccination or whatever. But it was good time, very good time. And driver and owner of car Mindaugas, he also did crazy driving. Made good reaction times on the first runs even, better than local champions with a new car. Maybe because we set the pedals and handles and everything same as on the Supra. We don't have handbrake now, we have foot brake on the dragster. Because he's used to it, he knows how to play with the pedals, so like 200ths of a second reaction times he was doing with new car, absolutely, he never seen it in dragster before. Cool, yeah. Thanks everyone for advices during this my build. I got a lot of help from people in UK and Sweden. Also, I want to mention Bill Felsted and Björn Holmberg in Sweden, and everyone, you know, advice, and is very valuable for us because we are rookies in this sport. So yeah, that's the story.